My first day in the deep woods was certainly a learning experience. My boss, the son in Camber & Son, did indeed call right about the time I was walking in the door. It appeared that Terry had known what he was talking about. Right around sunset, just as everyone would be heading inside, was when he decided to call and give me the news. "Wood, glad I caught you," he said, chuckling like he just told a good one. "I'm not sure if I bring good news or bad news, but it's news." "Well, hit me with it," I told him, feigning like I didn't know. "It's Curly's crew. The Foresters, well, they caught up with them in the deep woods today. They were chopping, trying to get a little ahead before autumn, and they didn't even notice the mist that was creeping in. They got 10 of them, just dragged them off, and if Curly and Mag hadn't seen them at the last minute and sat right down, we wouldn't have had a clue what had happened to them. Curly and Mag got back yesterday about sunset, and I've been churning my brain to figure out who was going to replace them. Then I remembered that Garza's going to be in the hospital for the foreseeable future, and you boys don't have anyone to lead you on the outskirts crew. So, as of tomorrow, you and your crew will be on the deep woods run. If you choose not to, I understand, and I'll accept your resignation." I thought that some of my crew might resign, but most of us had bills to pay and could use the increase in pay that came from cutting in the deep woods. I've talked a lot about the deep woods, but not a lot about how the crews operate in there. The outskirts crews, the new recruits, keep the woods from encroaching on the town. They cut them back day in and day out, and they stay relatively safe, despite all that happens to my crew. Outskirts crews usually don't encounter nearly as many problems as mine had, and the newbies work the new growth until they're ready to go into the deep woods. Some of them never get ready, some of them stay on the outskirts for their whole career, but most finally prove themselves ready and head into the deep woods. The deep woods was where the real money was to be made. Outskirts crew was more of a civic duty, but the deep wood is where the best wood comes from. The crew cut the hardwood from within the depths, and the carpenters and woodworkers in town use it to make the furniture that our town is known for. No one ever ventured to Rayffered to check out the place that their tables and their chairs come from, but they pay big bucks for them. The deep woods are a nearly magical place, and many of them report that the trees they cut just the day before have grown almost to the same height the next day. They bring out truckloads of wood a day, but the danger is what makes the pay worthwhile. Their groups get attacked twice as often as the ones on the outskirts, and the turnover rate on the deep woods crew is staggering. No, I won't desert you now. I assume it will come with a pay raise, of course. He laughed. Of course. Usual deep woods rates will apply. I've already had most of your old crews say that they'll be glad to sign on with Curly as well. He'll meet you in the yard tomorrow. Your dad knows where. See you bright and early. I hung up the phone and went to find Dad in his study. Mom was still working on dinner, and Dad was probably having his usual Sunday glass of whiskey as he read old westerns in his study. It was something he'd done for years, since I was little, and when I saw him look up from his Louis L'Amour novel and smile at me, I wasn't surprised. "Have a good visit to the hospital?" he asked, and it was hard to remember that just a few hours ago I'd been at the hospital with Garza. "Pretty good. I got a phone call when I got home, though, that I thought might interest you." I told him about what had happened to Curly's group and what they planned to do with my group. Dad closed his book and listened, nodding as I told him what the boss had said. His whiskey sweated quietly beside him, and when I had finished, he shook his head somberly. "I told Curly he was trekking too deep. We all did. He was getting too close to the heartwood, and that's why they attacked him. He got too close to their hideout, you see, and it looks like his men paid the price for it. Hopefully he remembers that, and doesn't get his new group killed too." What should I know about the deep woods before I go in?" I asked. "After all, you're one of the longest members of the deep woods crew." Tad laughed. "Flattery, really? I won't deny it. I've lasted that long because I'm careful. The deep woods will respect you, as long as you respect them. Just be safe. Keep a watch out for fog and be alert. You'll be okay, I think. You've always been careful, especially after Simon was taken. Just don't lose that respect for the woods now. And if Curly tells you to do something that seems unwise, don't do it." "What's he like? Is he like Garza?" Dad shook his head. "No, he's not like Garza. Curly is knowledgeable about the deep woods. He's one of the best pathfinders and scouts, but he takes way too many risks, and he's too worried about quotas and filling orders. I've been with Edwards since..." Dad gulped a little and looked shaken. "Well, since the incident. And he doesn't bring as much wood as Curly, but he's careful. He never takes us too close to the heartwood, and he keeps us out of trouble. Curly has lost 3 outfits since I joined Edwards' group, and he's lost multiple members besides. Be careful when you go out with him, and warn the other members of your group, too. He doesn't always have your best interest in heart." I started to ask him if he had any more info, but that was about the time that Mom called us to dinner. We ate meatloaf and mashed potatoes with green beans, and I had my shower and got to bed a little earlier than usual. I wanted my strength for the next day, whatever might come. My dreams were far from peaceful. I was a little kid again, but instead of sitting in the street, I was being chased by foresters through the deep, dark woods. The trees had faces and long, grasping hands, and the foresters came from every direction. I ran and ran, but I never seemed to get anywhere. And when I woke up to my alarm clock blaring, I was snared in my sheets and hopelessly tangled. Mom made me about twice the amount of breakfast she usually did, and I was starting to feel like a sacrificial lamb by the time I was done eating it all. Dad looked on longingly from over his grapefruit. His cholesterol was high, and mine was likely to be higher after this mountain of food, and I snuck him some bacon when Mom wasn't looking. There were 4 sandwiches in my lunchbox today as we rode to work. I felt nervous in a way that I hadn't for months. "Don't sweat it, Jeff," Dad said. "It's just the woods. It's honestly no more dangerous than the outskirts or even the city streets. Just be mindful and be careful. As long as you never get comfortable and forget where you are, you should be fine." We pulled up to the yard then, got out with my lunchbox, and followed Dad to the area where the Deepwood guys met. Derek, Jameson, and Clancy were there, and I saw that Michael and Jordan had been brought along too. There were a couple of other people as well, faces I didn't know, and one of them was a tall, thin guy with blonde hair that was slicked back to his skull with gel. He had his thumbs hooked into his belt in that way that let you know that he was in charge, and I supposed that he must be Curly. The big bald guy next to him must be Mags then, and as I came to join them, Curly reached out to shake my hand when he caught sight of me. "There he is. I've never met a real-life war hero or had one on my team before. Maybe you can save a few of these guys from the foresters like you did for Garza." I smiled and pumped his hand, but I didn't like the way he said it. It sounded sarcastic, like he wanted to put me in my place. "Gentlemen," he said, clapping his hands together, "I'm so very glad that you decided not to quit on me when you were called to go to the deep woods. I'm Clarence, everyone calls me Curly, foreman of this outfit. This is Mags, my right-hand man, and you have been assembled because my old crew ran afoul of the things that we will encounter in the woods. I won't lie to you, this job is dangerous. We work hard in this outfit, and we go deeper than any other outfit. That being said, we will be safe, and we will be on guard. So, let's load up and head into the woods. We have a full day of cutting ahead." I stuck close to Derek as we piled into the big old work truck and took off, wanting to find out about Ramsey. "Good to see you with us," he said, as the two of us bustled into the back bed along with the new guys. We were traveling 6 per truck, and it was pretty packed, but we squeezed in with the gear and got moving. "Where's Ramsey?" I asked, as the wind whipped past my face. "Retired. Garza too." "Really?" I asked, wondering why Garza hadn't mentioned it at the hospital. "Well, yeah. They both had about 20 years in, dude. I'm surprised it took them this long. The news is that Garza may never walk right again, and Ramsey said he'd rather retire early and spend time with his granddaughter than go into the deep woods. I'm a little nervous too, actually. They all make it sound so creepy. I felt the same. As we headed into the dark canopy, I guessed we would find out about this place together. The deep woods were about what I thought they would be, but it's a little different thinking about them and seeing them. The canopy of trees was thick, confining, and it got darker the deeper you went. The trees here were huge, thick old oaks and massive dark wood trees that were thicker around than any two men. This was the heart and soul of the town, and it was unthinkable that it could just keep regrowing at an unmanageable rate. We drove for about half an hour, and when we came to a stop, I had to look up to make sure the sun was still out. It was dark enough to be early afternoon, and the woods were shadowy indeed. We piled out with our gear, ready to get started, but Curly pulled us together for a briefing before we got to cutting. "Okay, 10 of you will be cutting and loading," he said, indicating the wood trailers behind the truck. "Mags and I will be on the watch for foresters. This is a duty that we will rotate, and when it's your turn, watch doesn't mean sitting on your phone and goofing off. We watch for mist, we listen for foresters, and we all come out alive. Start cutting. I want that trailer filled within an hour." So we cut. We cut trees, we skinned limbs, and then we all helped move them to the trailer and load them in. Some of them were so big we had to half them to get them in. But we were diligent, and the first load was soon heading back to the yard. We filled the next in short order and began to alternate as the new cart came back. This went on for quite a while, cutting and cleaning and rolling and placing and coming and going, and when lunch rolled around, I was glad for the extra sandwiches. "You know," Derek said around a mouthful of BLT, "I thought it'd be a lot scarier out here, but it really isn't." The productivity persisted till after lunch. We had no sooner started cutting again than Curly came up blowing a whistle and flashing a lantern. "Turn them off and sit down! Turn them off and sit down!" he shouted. All 12 of us had a seat, chainsaws off and heads down. That's when I noticed the fog. It came rolling up through the trees, and the foresters came with it. I was used to the fog preceding the foresters by a little bit, but they came right along with it, this deep in the woods. We were sitting on our hands, just waiting for it to pass, and it was much more organized than I was used to. Normally, we didn't see the mist till it was too late. With lookouts in place, it was much easier to spot it before it spotted us, and I tried to keep my teeth from chattering as I caught sight of them. The fog still hid them, but not as much as I would have liked. They groaned and creaked as they walked among us, knocking things over and kicking things astray as they made their slow way through the woods. We all sat as still as we could, trying not to move or squirm, and the foresters went along without comment. There must have been pressing business somewhere else, because 10 minutes later they had all moved on, and Curly said it was safe to go back to work. We had another stop, about 3, for another mist warning, and by then the lights were more useful. We had our chainsaws on and our earplugs in, and I couldn't have heard the whistle if my life had depended on it. The flashlight's light, however, caught my eye, and I killed the engine and sat down quickly. This time they moved a little slower, taking their time as they shuffled along, but it hardly mattered. We had loaded up so many wagons that we were on schedule to make our quota and then some. I understood then what Dad was saying. Curly could be a bit of a blowhard, and he took a lot of chances, but he was efficient, and he got the job done. As 5 o'clock came, the sun getting low in the tree line, we packed up and headed back to the yard. I'd spent the whole day making mental notes for later, compiling data so I could let Terry know about the deep woods. It seemed like the access road we had used to get here would be the best way, but I suppose if we were in a hurry, it might not make for a good escape. It was probably about an hour from the yard to the heart of the woods, and if we attacked it, then there would need to be a hasty retreat. We came back with the final 2 carts, the last loaded rather hastily, and Curly called us all together and let us know that we had done well. 9 carts! That's well above quota. Great job, everyone. Not bad for our first day. Get some rest and come back tomorrow, ready for more cutting. I met Dad at the truck, his eyes looking at the darkening sky with some apprehension. There you are. Good day in the woods? Suppose, I said, flexing a sore arm. I didn't get picked up by the foresters, so I suppose it was, yeah. As we piled into the truck, however, I realized that tomorrow was another day. You're still here. Thanks for stopping by. Dr. Plague here. Always a pleasure to see all my new and old viewers coming by for another one of my spooky tales. If you'd like to support the show, you can always take part in one of our channel offers through Fume or Aura, or you can just click on another video when they come up. I'd really appreciate it. For our newer viewers, we also have lots of playlists and other things if you'd like to get caught up. I know some of my series have been going on for quite a while. If you'd like to get my latest book, there's a link down below that'll take you to my Amazon page. Towesey Homestead just came out, so if that's something you'd like to get your hands on, go ahead and have a look down there. If you'd like a signed copy, you can go ahead and email me from my email address on the site, and I'll get with you about shipping information and ship you a signed copy. If you'd like to support the channel in a more monetary fashion, we also have membership through YouTube, and we've got a Patreon that you can get the information for in the description. We have lots of tiers and everything to suit your needs. Patrons that support on the $10 tier, that's our Ghostly Reader tier, get a book anytime I write one, signed and on their doorstep. As you may have noticed, there's a list of patrons and members on the screen, and I'd like to personally thank every one of them for taking a hand in the future of this channel. Well, that's enough for tonight. Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.